Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming along tonight. My name's Paul Harrison. I'm the Director of the MBA program at the Deakin Business School. And I want to start our event by acknowledging and thanking the Wurundjeri elders of the Kulin Nation, past and present, for their ongoing care and stewardship of this beautiful land where we're having our event tonight. Our First Nations elders are the heartbeat of our ancestors. They're the cornerstone of our kinship circles. They connect us to the past and ground us into the present and empower us into the future. And as somebody with Kulgoa Murawari ancestry and British and Scandinavian heritage, I often grapple with the rhetoric that goes on around conversations about acknowledgements of country. For me, acknowledging country is a simple, powerful act of connection. It's not a zero-sum game. It's an invitation to widen the lens, to celebrate the land's full story. For me, it's a reminder that the same land that my ancestors cared for as part of country is also where my other ancestors sought to make a life. The reality is that these stories, for many of us, are intertwined. And by acknowledging that, we open a door to a future built on respect, inclusion, empathy, and a deeper understanding of the land and of one another. I'd also like to acknowledge that many of us in the Deakin Business School are tonight mourning the loss of our close friend and colleague, Lisa Ronson, who died last weekend in a tragic accident at her property in regional Victoria. Lisa had a significant impact on our program. She became an adjunct professor just at the time the Deakin MBA was moving towards its current values-led ethos. She embodied this in her vulnerable leadership style and her own commitment to the program. And Lisa had this remarkable ability to make people feel seen and valued. She lit up a room when she entered and people were drawn to her. She'll be very missed by all of us. So tonight was conceived as an opportunity to bring our MBA students, our MBA alumni and Deakin partners together in a setting that was casual and informal, while also providing an opportunity for us to connect and talk about the program and celebrate our achievements. Coming out of COVID, there was a lot of discussion around people wanting to find ways to reconnect with one another. It's fantastic now that we've got the involvement of our alumni team to kind of bring alumni back into the group. And we do want to stay connected to everybody who is currently within the MBA, but also people who have a relationship with the MBA. And as Director of the MBA, my vision for this program is that it's flexible, that it's relevant, that it's engaging, that it's connected and it's contemporary in its delivery. And we want to produce graduates who really embody the Deakin values of innovation, sustainability, progress, diversity and inclusiveness. For me, flexibility is more than online. It's about adapting the way that we teach to the way that we now live. So I'd like to show you some of the videos that highlight some of the unique aspects of our learning program.
Credentials really encourage connection. Understanding how other people work, being open to their experiences and differences that they bring into their leadership journey.
There is such a wealth of experience when you get together with everybody.
Leveraging practical elements, working groups and people from diverse backgrounds and industries.
Every gamut you can think of in the room right now. I won't learn this anywhere else.
Residential is really for those people who want an alternative to the online experience, who want to be exposed to different ways of thinking.
I really thought it would be just lecture after lecture after lecture, but it's much more interactive.
You have to work together in a pressure-prompted environment to deliver pretty high-level things, be it in presentation format or debate format or speech format.
And it will form a suite of different ways that you learn rather than one form of delivery.
The Deakin MBA study tour was about a 2-week experience across 3 different cities in Europe.
We have had a vast range of cultural interactions with businesses, with people on the streets, with people in the shops.
And we also had the opportunity to stretch and challenge ourselves in some cultural immersions, which included some pasta making in Italy, some wine tasting and bike riding in Bordeaux. and lovely art tours while we were in Paris. We went along to the university and were able to see the different learning environments that similar students to us in our course would have in a different country.
To learn from not only people like me, but also so many different people from different backgrounds, from different career journeys, from different areas of the industry as well.
It's that breadth of view that really helps that rounded out experience of learning while doing and learning while being with other people.
So our residentials continue in 2025 and the next study tour will be in 2026. The foundation of the MBA, or the skeleton, the scaffold of the MBA, will always be the online program, but part of this bringing people together and connecting with one another is these elements like the residentials, the study tours, the intensives. And I do think that that's what our market is asking from us at the moment, is different ways of learning, different forms of flexibility. With us tonight is our Executive Dean, Professor Jenny Lightowers. And so I'd like Jenny to invite you to come and say a few words.
I really don't want to thanks very much, Paul.
Oh, is it on?
Am I on? I don't want to stand between you and a panel, but wow, what a program. The MBA program is looking absolutely amazing. I can't see how it looks. I know it's hard work, but it looks like lots of fun. So it's fabulous to have alumni and students and here tonight, and staff. So thank you for being here. I know it's a really tricky time of year for people to be here. So we're grateful for you being here. The MBA program, as you will all know, is a critical and really important part of the Faculty of Business and Law. And we are very fortunate to have Paul leading the charge on it. I had the privilege of being in India a few weeks ago, and we ran an alumni event, and most of the students who came to that event were alumni from the MBA program. So Paul, your reach is very far and wide, as is the universities generally in India. So we're very grateful for that. I've only been executive dean for about 12 months. I've come out of the law school, but before the law school, I was in industry working as a lawyer. And so I'm very cognizant of the importance of between industry and academia, and how critical all of you people here are tonight to support that ongoing engagement, which is so vitally important for our students in particular, but to keep universities grounded in the real world, which is a really important thing. I mean, a business school that doesn't integrate well with business is a problem. And so each of you plays a critical role in keeping us grounded whilst we hope to contribute to your ongoing successes. So I'm really excited to hear the panel tonight, and thank you, Paul, for letting me say a few words.
Thanks, Jenny. So with that, I will introduce the panel from left to right. What we're going to do is our panel members are going to talk about their experience of the MBA, how it's helped them, and then I'll ask some questions. We'll get a conversation going, and once that's all done, we can all have questions from the audience, from anybody who's curious about these things, and then we can all head out and catch up, have a few drinks and nibblies and network, or as I like to call it, talk to one another. So now I'd just like to introduce the panel. Rachel Chrapot has built a career leading strategy and teams across the legal, higher education and non-profit sectors. Rachel is a former barrister. She's held leadership roles at the Victorian Bar, managed the Monash University JD program, and lectured at a range of Australian universities. And Rachel has just completed her MBA. When did you graduate? In June? In June. So you're really fresh.
Yes.
Patrick Gallagher is the managing partner at Vision Radiology. Patrick oversees operations across multiple clinics with a strong focus on medical imaging and business strategy. His career began in radiation science, but was followed by roles in Victoria's public health system, and completed a master's in medical ultrasound. Now in your final 2 subjects of the MBA, Patrick combines clinical expertise with leadership in healthcare, And Patrick was one of the students who went on our study tour to Europe earlier this year. So I've gotten to know Patrick very well. And Catherine Sherwin has worked across local government, private consultancy, and now as a principal planner in the state government's Department of Transport and Planning. Her experience spans urban planning roles in Victoria, Darwin, London, and Cambodia. Catherine has an MBA from Deakin. You went on a study tour too. You did 2 study tours. You'll have to tell us about this. And Catherine has just also completed 6.5 years on our advisory board. And thank you, Catherine, for joining us too tonight. So I wanted to start with a kind of general question to the whole panel, and feel very free to, share the response or talk with each other. But I guess the first question that I always come to is what motivated you to do an MBA in the first place? I'll start with you, Rachel, and then maybe why you chose Deakin. And this is not an advertising thing; it's actually trying to get people to get to understand the process.
why I chose Deakin. I came to do an MBA after having done a lot of other study. I've got a law degree, I've got a Masters of Law, and most people thought, well, what do you need? What do you need to do this for? But my career had led me a little bit out of the practice of law and into the management side of law. And I felt that there was a gap in my education in terms of finance and the management side. So the leadership side, I'd sort of done the Women in Leadership course, which was a progression, which is why I ended up at Deakin, I must admit. So the Women in Leadership course is a pathway to doing into the Deakin MBA. And I think that's why I started the leadership course, because I thought, oh, well, if I ever decide I'm going to do this MBA eventually, I know I've got a sort of a foot in the door at Deakin. But more generally, I think Deakin for me it had that mixture of the online, which was convenient because I could do it, well, sort of COVID times too, which is, we're all at home anyway. But I did like the idea of being able to connect and come in and attend classes as well. So it sort of had that mixture. A lot of the other MBAs were either full-time in person, so that you didn't have that online option or that flexibility. But like you said, the flexibility is one thing. I think it was also the reputation of the Deakin Business School, which I sort of highly valued. I'd had a few other friends of mine who admittedly had done the Deakin MBA and said, this is where you've got to go. So that's how I came to be where I am.
Great to hear. Patrick.
Yeah, I suppose for me, it started as a box ticking exercise. I went for a role, a promotion at the company that I was working for, and it came down to me and 2 candidates, and the hiring manager said, look, you were outstanding, but the guy next to you had an MBA. So I thought, well,
oh dear.
I thought, well, it evoked some thought, well, maybe I should do an MBA. So I did. But it's evolved to much more than that. I'm now in a different role in a different business, and it's typically in healthcare, you're really good at becoming a clinician and seeing patients and in my way of taking images and interpreting ultrasound, but you don't really know how to lead people. So the MBA has been very well-rounded in giving me a bit of an insight into how to read a balance sheet, how to lead a team, how to have a conversation with the accounting department.
You'll have to help us.
To just that marketing isn't just Instagram. So it's been well-rounded and it's sort of helped me immensely in the current role that I'm doing.
And Catherine, planning, how do you go from planning to MBA?
Yeah, so I'm an urban planner, and I did some really cool projects, got to work on the London Olympics, and I came back to Melbourne and was in a role, and I just had different mentors and leadership programs, and I just wanted to extend myself and be challenged. I wasn't so challenged at work, and I felt there was a gap in terms of, and I think it's probably just a mental gap of saying, oh, I don't really know how to read I was going to say spreadsheets on spreadsheet. What's the
Excel.
There we go.
A P&L. Sorry, we'll just go to the.
Yeah. Exactly. And so then I was creating a barrier myself in terms of going for higher roles that well, could I demonstrate that I had this experience in reading the financial statements, doing those sorts of things? And I just wanted a challenge. And it was funny, a few mentors had sort of seeded the idea, and so did my dad, just about what about an MBA? And then one night in, I think it was June or July, I was Googling, and the MBA for Deakin was starting in 2 or 3 weeks' time. And I'm pretty quick at making decisions, and I just applied, and in 2 or 3 weeks' time I was starting my MBA. And there was also a big hook that there was a China study tour happening in that November, and that's a great way to start a subject, a great way to start a degree. And Deakin for me, it was geographic as well. I was working at Whitehorse City Council, so in Burwood campus. Not that I did many subjects there at all, but it was just, it sort of led me to research Deakin, and just the different flexibility options appealed to me.
I'm curious from all of you, but again, we'll just do it in rounds, kind of thing, but we'll jump around. We'll see how we go. But from your perspective, because you all seem to have had different experiences of the MBA, just describe some of the different ways that you did the units, Rachel, over the, because was it?
I'm in an unusual position because I got a lot of advanced standing for all the other study that I'd done. So I haven't given quite as much time or
well, you were in my
money,
marketing unit. I do.
Yeah, that was my last unit that I did. Was my marketing, was the marketing unit. So I probably disappointingly, I didn't get to do a study tour or even a residential.
Right.
So most of mine was either online or at Burwood, and I was doing it really for all the finance. I must admit, I had all the back end, notoriously boring subjects left to do in an MBA, but I really enjoyed it. I know, don't make a face, but most people, it was the finance, accounting, all of that stuff. I think the stuff I'd avoided my entire career, actually, I must admit.
Okay.
I'd avoid it. So a lot of it was either hybrid or like there was online learning, although we created great friendship groups, and I think that was really important to me. Very early on and very quickly, we created a study group that we could all study together. And I think that, I know I'm diverting a bit from your question, but I tend to do that.
Yeah.
Well, you know
I
know. I think the creation of a cohort or a group is really, really important as early as you can in the MBA. I mean, we wouldn't have got through it. I'm looking at Carly over there, but we wouldn't have got through it if it wasn't for a group of, particularly our group of women that were, juggling all of those life balances. And I think Deakin allowed us also to be able to do that, which was fantastic. I mean,
I've got a question. Sorry, Paul.
You've got a question.
Exactly how I want it.
You got a question.
In terms of creating those groups, was that an online?
We did it all online, didn't we? Yeah, we literally said.
How did you connect with an online? Because I didn't do the online subjects, so how did you?
Oh, okay.
Online.
Had a few conversations. I think we just worked out really. I don't know. Maybe it was just us and the intuition we had about. I mean, we were all pretty good at reading people in that group, I must admit. And I think we just all worked out that we were all going to study in a similar way, had the same sort of goal. The aim was going to be similar. We were going to. We had the same vision for why we were there. And I think it was about support. We just felt we would support each other. It didn't take us very long. We just sort of connected really quickly.
Did you find, Patrick, that you made strong connections? When did you start? What year did you start?
I started in COVID.
Yeah.
And it was exclusively online, and it was the perfect time to start studying again because there was nothing else to do. So, but the online stuff was great, and having recorded lectures and everything so conveniently in the Deakin system was amazing, and it was really beneficial. But I found that it took its toll. It was just online, and I wasn't connecting, and I wasn't meeting people. I wasn't networking, and I had a few people that have done different MBAs, and they said the networking or the creating friends and was part of it, and I was feeling that I wasn't getting that component. So I did a residential last year, and the study tour came up, and it was well, Still recovering. No, it was great. It was probably one of the best things I've done in a long time. So yeah,
And outside the comfort zone. Did it?
certainly did.
I do recall. I recall in the first class that we had on campus in Italy, where you said, "I didn't even think that I'd like to come on this holiday," and I had to remind you that it wasn't.
That it wasn't a holiday.
Yeah. It certainly wasn't a holiday. It wasn't a walk in the park.
Right.
But the other part of the Deakin stuff, the Deakin course that I've enjoyed is the Deakin stackables. So, yeah, I've done a couple of those, and it's kind of just saying that one of them I did was managing your message. I don't know if anyone's done that one here with Naomi Robertson from Today Tonight.
That was Today Tonight.
It was today.
It was one of the best. I've done a few presenting courses, but it was fantastic. So hopefully I've learnt and I'm not doing any annoying things that if she was standing in the back corner, that she goes, you're twitching and you're using the word and you're rocking.
Crossed, and I shouldn't be.
Yeah. So no, I think everything that Deakin's offered in terms from online through to the study tour, through to the residential and the stackables, it's been a really convenient way to study, I suppose.
Catherine, it's been 8 years. Do you still kind of draw upon your experience of the MBA?
I do, and I think it's interesting because when you mentioned the stackables, I've done stackables after my MBA, and I've really found I didn't realise I'd connect so much with the university as an alumni, and I have, and I still do, and I get a lot of value out of that. So the stackables I've done governance, and then I did the presentation one with Naomi, which was like February 2020. I don't know if you did that one.
Wow. Good times.
So we were in a room on a weekend hearing about things in February going, should we? And someone coughed.
Should we be here?
And this is completely off topic, but when I was driving to the stackable, I was filling up my car with petrol, and the petrol guy said, "Oh, if you spend over $20, you'll get a big discount." I went, "Okay." And he goes, "There's giant toilet paper over there." And I was like, "Okay." So I had this huge thing of toilet paper in my pocket alone, so I was fine for ages. Just he knew something.
He knew something was going to happen.
Side note. But yeah, no, I really do draw on it still, and I see it particularly with a strategic thought and focus, and it actually creates frustration for me when I'm at work, and if I've got previous bosses with directors who just don't know how to think strategically or have those strategic conversations, and it's quite frustrating, but it also helps me get those try to get my message across, and if not, also realize this isn't the place for me if my leadership team aren't strategic. So I still use it.
That's great.
Really regularly.
Rachel, you've had a career change since finishing the MBA?
I have had a career change since I started the MBA.
And then finished.
And then finished it. Within the MBA,
is that
I had a
thing?
number of things happen.
Right.
Called a number of lecturers saying, "Well, actually, I'm about to leave. Should I do that? Should I look at the previous place I've been or the future place I've been?" So I, just before I started the MBA, when I sort of left the legal management sphere, I took 5 months off to think about what I wanted to do. And I took on a role as a CEO of a small non-for-profit called SoPaid, and they needed my legal skill for a whole lot of reasons, governance and structures and a whole lot of things, dealing with boards and dealing with a founder. Hope none of you are founders. Thought we should talk about how you deal with your CEOs. And I spent 2 years there, and then I'd started the MBA while I was in that role. And then I left there. That was also in the middle of COVID. And then I went and started another CEO's role at another small non-for-profit in the arts, so completely different. I'm big at picking up things that I don't necessarily. I think my training as a barrister allowed me to pick things up that I don't always know anything about or are necessarily an expert in. You can be an expert in the law, but not in every area of the law before you pick up a problem.
Okay.
And I spent 2 years there also dealing with those kinds of structures. But then I finished up there in June this year, and ironically, I've gone back into the legal sphere, which is sort of fun. And then I'm back sort of teaching in the Monash Law faculty, but I've also literally 2 weeks ago renewed my practicing certificate as a solicitor. And I'm helping one of my ex-students who has his own law firm. He said, I really would love you to come in and help me reorganise my firm and do some things and maybe do some work for me. And so I'm jumping in and advising and, you know, doing a whole lot of other things and briefing counsel and doing a whole lot of things. So I think one of the things that the MBA taught me as well was that sort of flexibility in, when you talk about the flexibility of the subjects, it's one thing, but it's the flexibility of your mindset. So the ability to be able to pick things up that you're not necessarily feel 100% comfortable with, but you've been around for a while and you've got a bit of experience in lots of different things, and you can probably adapt your skill set to fit that. And so I'm still actually in my slightly terrified phase of coming back into being a solicitor kind of phase, right. Given I haven't been one for 20 years. But I've realised that it's okay. And I'm going back and asking my now ex-student, how do you want that advice to look? Do you want that, all those kinds of things. But I'm happy to jump in with it. And I think the MBA gave me that confidence to do that. I felt like that I could do that again.
I think one of the things that should be imbued in the MBA, and I'm glad that you're saying this, is this willingness to embrace complexity as just a normal part of the workplace. I'll go to you, Patrick. In terms of that complexity, you do work in a very complex environment scientifically. Were you able to carry that across to the way that you think about management as a kind of managing partner, or is there some kind of blockage there?
No, I think I was doing a lot. I typically lead, as I said before, in the healthcare space. I suppose it happens in all industries, is that you're doing everything by feel, especially leading organisations by feel. But the MBA has given me that well-rounded perspective to do things a little bit differently. And in medicine or in healthcare, we apply data, or we apply evidence-based to what we're doing on a clinical level. So we should be probably doing that to an organisation, and it's something that we typically haven't done. So, I found it invaluable from that. We've got a marketing team, and I've sort of been headbutting with them a little bit about applying from Paul's advice about applying evidence-based to why we're doing things a certain way. So a lot of it's trying to massage that to get better outcomes for our business, because we only have a small amount of money to spend. So we need to be strategic and apply evidence to what we're doing from a marketing perspective. So that's where the MBA has come in recently. Very, very good.
Catherine, can you kind of point to a time or a moment where you learned something about yourself, either during the MBA or post-MBA, as a result of the program?
I think, there's probably a lot I can think about. Yeah. One of them was the organisational behaviour subject was fascinating. So I haven't done any psychology before, and just how I took that back and was sort of able to analyse my colleagues and think, this is how they like to receive information, or this is why they're reacting this way, broadly. And then myself as well, to be like, oh no, like things that I really don't like, and I just need to say, no, don't. This is how I prefer to receive the information when I'm managing a group or whatever it happens to be. So it's really sort of understanding what my triggers are, and then how other people like to interact, and then the best way I can communicate that. So instead of getting frustrated with a team member, it's to actually look back on, well, how have I interacted? What's the delivery? And then what can I do differently with that? And so it's that sort of introspection there. And I found that really useful. Yeah.
Patrick, can you have you, because you're in the middle of your MBA at the moment, or you're towards the end, what advice would you give to somebody who's starting out with their MBA at the moment?
Don't decide to have a child halfway through, because you
very specific.
Really
specific. All right, number one, we'll get that up on the PowerPoint.
I suppose just be open to all the opportunities that come your way. So I didn't ever expect that I'd be sitting on a panel in front of different people and going on the study tour and meeting some, it's hard to make friends as adults. And, I've made some great friends from the study tour and from some of the other deacon subjects. So I think just be open, I suppose, would be my advice.
No, I think I'd agree with you. I mean, just to be open to new ideas and new thoughts and the different ways people think, and learn from it. I think that's.
Do you in terms of your what units did you end up doing? Did you just?
No, you can go back and it's like once I've done them.
Maybe I'll go. Yeah, it's completely gone.
They're completely gone. I did your marketing unit. I
Yeah,
did,
you did.
The capstone was interesting. I did your finance unit.
So I guess my point being is
I actually love the process.
Well, because you were able to, get RPL, recognition for prior learning, plus the kind of leadership program. Did you feel in that process that you wanted to kind of be more involved in it, or was it?
I think in the end, I think I was a little disappointed. Not that I was perfectly happy to get the credit for the units, but I think I was disappointed that I didn't have more options in what I needed to do to get the MBA. So I was there to get the MBA because I had to finish these 6 or 7 units. But as I look back, especially some of my friends who were more embedded in doing more of the MBA, I thought, I'd love to do that. I would love to do that. Can I add that? Can I add that? I'll add extra money to that. Yeah, I can. I'll just come back and do a single unit, I suppose. Very goal driven. It's like, I know you don't like to hear that.
That's fine.
It's the end result. I needed the goal.
Okay.
But I found that the units that I did, pushed me out of my comfort zone because I was attracted to doing the leadership units or the notorious, I think they call, more softer learning units. They're not really at all. They're actually the more challenging units. But my strength was there. Whereas the process units or the finance units or the accounting units was where I needed to actually feel like I was stepping out of my comfort zone. So it did push me out of my comfort zone. And the first 2 or 3 weeks of every one of those units was just complete panic.
That's great to hear.
It's good to hear, but it settles.
I think it's also great for people to hear.
Yeah, it's good to hear. No. But
we're all the same.
No, because you do. You sort of go, this is something really new. What is it? I need to get it all organised. Yeah, how do I manage all of this? How do I fit it into my life? Apart from that, how do I manage this subject matter that I've never encountered in this way? So I may have encountered finance, having to talk to a CFO or brief somebody or brief an accountant, but I hadn't been embedded in it. I hadn't had to sit in it myself, especially in Excel as a program itself. But, those kinds of things. And I think that really challenged me. But once I got into the groove and we had a big debrief on WhatsApp, I was fine. Fine. No, it challenged you in different ways, which is good.
I'll ask you, Catherine, how do you define success?
It's a big
That's
question. That's a big question.
I know. That's why I went to Catherine.
This is selfish, but what makes me happy, really? So I think for me, it's about, in terms of if I'm looking at what I see as success for myself, it's what I get value of and what drives me. So I do a lot of other sort of committee work for gender equity areas, and that's a passion that I've got. So in terms of, I've got my day job that I'm successful doing this and this, but I think, what do I have success in? It's something I'm passionate about and driving and making the community better, and what can I do and how can I influence the community? So I'm definitely a soft skill person, right? So I think it's about knowing that I'm giving back to the community and the difference I can make. That's success in my mind.
Patrick, how would you describe a good life? Yes.
They're getting deep, Paul.
I know. Well, you can't help it. This is me.
It has to go deep.
Things have changed for me. I've got a 2-year-old. So I was just talking before, I'm decided to step back for the first time in my life and just work part-time and have some time with my son. So that for me is probably what's going to be a good life for the next little while, having a happy, healthy child. So that's,
I think we always talk about balance.
Mm-hmm.
Dare I say this? And we hear this all the time about work-life balance. But I think if you've got the balance that you need in your life, whether it's work, whether it's family, whether it's community, and mine is also about community, I think finding that right balance is, and there are different times in your life that you have different balance. It swings into different, you'll be swinging towards family. My family is, I've got a 23-year-old and a 19-year-old. Now they don't want to talk to me at all. So it's a very different time. So you go and do other things and create that kind of balance. But I think it's about balance. And I think the study was important for me for that. I needed that intellectual challenge that at the time I didn't feel I was getting in my work, for example, or in my day-to-day work, that I may have got when I was studying more legal or working more legal. I felt I had more of that intellectual challenge. So I think that also, was really important in terms of balancing where I was at.
Patrick, one of the goals of the MBA is a very diverse cohort, both kind of experience and backgrounds and things like that. Did you feel like that helped you think differently about how to solve problems, having that kind of access to different diverse perspectives?
Oh, certainly. As I've said before, healthcare can be very narrow in their mindset, and talking from people from a breadth of different industries has changed, and just conversations during the intensives or the study tours, or even just the subjects about how we would, what sort of problem we've got on this particular day or this particular month. I suppose just their perspective of giving you advice, or not even advice, or something similar happened to me, but we approached it this way, was just a way of approaching a problem from diversity, I suppose. Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things that we get feedback from students is that sitting in a group of 5 different backgrounds gives you access to knowledge that you wouldn't have in your professional career. Did you have a fairly diverse cohort when you were doing your thing, Catherine?
We did. I mean, from an intersectionality point of view, it was diverse.
Great.
From age and culture and gender, but also in terms of the type of work. So I think about the study tours, and one of them I got to go to America, and it's just hearing those anecdotes that I don't work in the vitamin space, but one of the Swiss vitamins had opened in America, and we went to the Chicago office, and just the learnings of how they didn't adapt to the culture of America and where it went wrong. It really resonates with me, and I do a completely different job, but there's different things in there about how are you adapting to what you're doing. And like the example they gave was, it's just chaos, but it was like they paid so much money to go into Walgreens and have the end of aisle display. But it turns out that they, I feel bad for them, but they had like when they went to check on it, they had one vitamin on each shelf, like one vitamin thing. And it turned out you needed to have a stockist that came in every morning and day and all these things and they also had like I think a round number, say it was like $25, but it should have been $24.99, and you have a coupon. Whereas if you had a coupon here, people would be like, no, I'm good. So they really missed the mark. So it does make me think each time in my urban planning and management and leadership is just about, okay, where are we adapting to this? So for me, moving into state, it's very different to local government and private consultancy, and it's doing that adaptation, and I need to adapt, and also how are they adapting and who are we interacting with stakeholders. So yeah, it's really valuable. Yeah.
Patrick, I got to know you during the study tour. I mean, I knew you before, but I got to know you during the study tour. Can you talk about some of the places that we visited and what you took from that? I did read your reflections, but like in terms of the experiences that you had, how that kind of changed your thinking visiting different countries?
Yeah, we went from very small sort of family-run coffee company that was very boutique and very passionate about coffee, and there were 3 sisters that ran the business, and their passion was just their English wasn't great, but their passion was amazing, and that's what we really needed to see. And it sort of made me sort of think why we do why we do a certain thing, or what motivates us to to be passionate about certain things. So from seeing those small, applying business at a very small scale, to we went to Accenture Song to look at what they were doing in the AI generative AI space, and it was just to see that. Yeah, you could have given me some questions, Paul. I could have prepared better.
Sorry. No, we're hearing the real Patrick.
You can think.
Yeah, it's fine.
Just seeing, it just sort of made me ponder why I'm doing things the way that I'm doing it, and is there a better way to be doing it, or am I doing the right thing? Yeah, I suppose.
And that's incredibly. I mean, that's part of learning, isn't it? Really, is questioning your assumptions. I think. Is there a moment during the MBA that shifted your perspective, Rachel? Everyone's kind of, what question? You're not necessarily going to all get the same question.
You can't even prepare for that question now. Is there a moment that shifted my overarching perspective of how I...
just maybe a perspective on how to do something, or it's up to you to interpret that question any way
I like.
Yeah. Take it and run with it.
Take it and run with it. I think overarchingly it shifted. I did a process subject, business processes and something with Jeff.
Yep.
And I think at the time I thought it was going to be very. I think I learnt more from that, and I took more from that into my CEO's role in terms of process than I had with some of the other units. And I think that was a shift for me in how I was going to use some of the knowledge in the MBA translated into my work. I wasn't entirely sure when I started how I was going to use it to translate into into my day-to-day work. That unit was like, okay, I can see how this is going to move me into my workspace and fill gaps in my knowledge that I felt I didn't have. So it shifted that mindset in terms of how I was going to use it. I think, and when I did okay in it, I must admit, I think I felt, all right, I can do this. I also was coming back to doing formal study after having done no formal study for a very long time. And I think getting back into that zone of formal study was sort of, and I thought, all right, okay, I can do this. This is okay. I can manage it. So that sort of shifted. I think then I started enjoying it more. If that
the unit, or the whole MBA?
The whole MBA, because I think I took a different look at the MBA and then how I was going to use the MBA in my work. And I think that sort of shifted
and was that
mindset.
Accidental?
Oh, completely.
Yeah. So what advice, any of you, what advice would you give for people to some degree to trust in the journey? I mean,
100%.
As the MBA director, we know that these things happen, but a lot of people get very nervous and say, what do I need to know? When do I need to know this kind of thing? Rather than saying, we've been doing this for a while, we see things fall into place. Catherine, maybe because you're 8 years out, do you still see things falling into place still after this amount of time?
Yeah, I think for me, my MBA journey was I chose the experiential learning as much as I could. So I started with business process management. It's like every Wednesday night, and it was just not my jam. Like I was like, after a day's work, my brain is, tired. So it was hard. And then I went on the study tour to China and did a couple of subjects, and I did some residentials, and suddenly I was like, oh, I can do this. I can enjoy it. And I also discovered the strengths that I had where I preferred that experiential learning. I can connect to people better. I can learn more. I was saying before we started, the online learning, I think I would probably go for a nap. Like, I didn't say that. I thought I'd go for a nap. So it wouldn't have worked for me. So it's probably trusting, like trying a few things and then work out what works for you, and then leaning in on that and having that reflection. And then like the last subject I did was finance, and it was so hard. And it was, 3 hours on a Wednesday night. It wasn't with you, Simona. It's 3 hours on a Wednesday night. And in the end, one of my friends I'd met on the China trip, we ended up hiring a tutor who tutor like year one finance people, 19, 18-year-olds, but he was tutoring us.
Perfect.
So every Saturday, oh no, I think it was every Tuesday night we met at the State Library. So when I go past the State Library, I have this like reaction of like, oh.
How's the reaction?
Yeah, you know, maybe 8 years later
Finance.
I can look at the library, go, it's a beautiful building. But on the tram many times I'd be like, oh Lord. And then every Saturday we'd catch up as a little mini study group because the three of us just were just not finance into it all. And we weren't connecting. And it was, and I think that's part of the skills that we learn. It's like, let's make it work. And part of like what you're saying, the group that you made. So if you're struggling, get those connections and you get through it. And it was hard, but it was good. And I think it's just, leaning into your strengths and reflecting on what doesn't work or works for you.
I think it's a bit of going with the flow as well. I know that, and I come from a background of no going with the flow.
No.
Trust me, I do not go with the flow. I like to know what I'm doing. I like to plan. I like to know where I'm heading. And I think it sort of taught me to relax into it a bit. And if I look at my career more generally, there actually hasn't been a great big plan. And it was about taking opportunities, I think, as they come and as they're presented to you. And that's a bit of a life lesson, I think. It's not just about the opportunities within study or within your MBA. I think it's about taking opportunities as they come to you in life. And if I'm going to sound like, you know, old and mature about it, but it is about that. And you sort of, life is just this journey of just take them and grab them. And that's what I think hopefully I'm still doing. I think
that's made me reflect that I've been better at taking those opportunities since my MBA. And I just look at all the opportunities that have presented, which previously I may have taken some or not pushed myself to get those. So that's been a big change for me.
Patrick, do you feel like you've been supported to kind of do the things that you need to do within the MBA? In either through your cohort, through your colleagues, but also just through the program itself?
Yeah, I think so.
How do you kind of take advantage of those supports? Because again, as we've discussed, universities are medieval institutions. They're difficult to navigate. What kind of techniques would you say to people to kind of be able to navigate those?
I think don't be afraid to ask for help. I think a lot of people go, oh, I might look silly if I ask that question, or I guarantee you that you're probably what you're thinking about 10 other people or more are thinking. So, just be brave enough to ask for help. And every time that I've asked for help or that I've gone out on a limb, I've been rewarded. So, whether that's through your colleagues in your study group or just other people that you sort of meet within the subject that you're doing, or the lecturers, I've found if you're happy to ask, there's no, but the old saying, there's never such thing as a dumb question. So,
there is, but you know.
Lucky you didn't ask it.
I guess a final question then for everybody is, and then we'll kind of go for any questions.
All the dumb questions I would.
I wonder whether you have any advice then for people to make those connections, because I think this is one of the things that we're seeing with study now is that people do feel a little bit disconnected. Any kind of ideas about how you make those connections in a digital space, in a person-to-person space? Obviously, we've got the residentials and the study tours. Not everybody can do them. What are some thoughts on how you do that?
I think you've got to reach out to people. Don't wait for people to come to you. You know, everybody's sitting around in their, whether it's their homes or wherever they're, if go out there and ask, have a coffee, have a drink, or whatever it is.
Come to these things.
Come to these things.
Yes.
Or just, jump online earlier, which I used to do. I was like always the first one or two people online in my class. So you end up getting to meet people or getting to talk to people before the class starts, or hang out just for 5 or 10 minutes after your class finishes. I think that was really important, especially with a mostly online course.
Fantastic.
We would all tap in. We'd have a WhatsApp group. We'd all tap in before the class. All of those sort of things. And I wasn't used to studying online. The last time I formally studied, you had to come to a lecture. It wasn't recorded, right? No, nobody recorded anything. You didn't come, you missed out, or someone took notes for you. Those were the day. That was the day. So to move on to something that was wholly online took a bit of adapting for me to sort of change to doing wholly online learning. And ironically, I'd done online teaching, which is very different to online learning. But again, I understood what you guys teaching online were going through, and I think that made me a different kind of online
Probably did.
student, probably,
Yes.
because I had, stared at blank screens during COVID when people just have their name and don't want to put
Tell
their
me about it.
camera on. I'm like, oh, I used
Yep.
to say just one set of eyes to stare at, like, give me something to talk to. So I think that's probably how I
Patrick,
try
your
to do it.
thoughts?
I'd just say be brave. Yeah, just take yourself out of your comfort zone and just be open to new experiences.
And Catherine?
I think at the time I was probably really relaxed about making connections, but in retrospect, if I could go back for those like week-long residentials, the connections you make are really strong and you enjoy it. You've had a great week, and then you're like, bye, and that's
Right.
it. And I think if you don't see each other again, you've missed that chance to connect. So I think it's actually, if in retrospect, if I did it, I wouldn't do it again because I've done it. But I
You can do it again.
yeah,
Come back. Come back.
Everyone's welcome.
make a better effort actually saying, hey, Paul, what's your number? Let's catch up in the city or
Yeah.
whatever. And then you've created that connection. I've found that easier on the study tours because we were together for 2 or 3 weeks, but I didn't occur to me for the residentials, which is a bit silly, but yeah.
It's funny how we take very kind of adolescent fears into adulthood. Like, what's the worst that could happen? They could say no.
no.
Exactly. And then we move on.
No, I don't like it.
Exactly. So I'm going to open up to any questions. Jess and Tracy have microphones for the people for the recording. If you have a question, just put your hand up. Oh, we've got one at the back there.
Thank you. Catherine, you said that one of your passions is gender equity. Did you find there was anything in the MBA program which helped inform your practice in terms of gender equity?
Probably it doesn't quite come to mind. I sort of found the passion a bit after my MBA. I sort of joined like a UN Women Committee thing and Women's Planning Network, and those opportunities, I think that was part of the opportunities I started to take after the MBA, and they presented themselves, and then I really sort of deep dived into that. So probably just what I learned on the MBA as a whole has helped me take those opportunities. But during it, I didn't, those things weren't coming to my mind. No, but yeah, good question. But since with the advisory board though, we've had a lot of talk, and like Andrea used to be the MBA chair, and just the discussions that she'd have as well, and the leadership angles, and then looking at the gender diversity in terms of the numbers. So,
and it's very much now in the program. It kind of permeates the entire program now, and it's not done in a way which is like, now we're going to talk about gender equity. We say, here's a case study and things like that.
And and I never felt there were things that grated or annoyed me that made me think, oh, that's against it.
Sign.
And that's a good sign because it's permeated through it.
Great, thanks for that.
Any other questions? We learn as academics to wait 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Silence.
Just let it sit.
Oh, Marcus, do you have a question?
You're going to be in such trouble.
Oh, we've got a question here. Got a question here, everyone.
They've got some serious questions. Question over
here.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I joined a little late, but this question is open for anyone who can help me answer the question. So as a person who has just joined the MBA program for this trimester and who wants to specialize in marketing, any pointers if you have would definitely go a long way.
The expert.
No, we'll go to Patrick, I think. Patrick's a marketing expert.
Patrick's a marketing expert.
Look, for me, before the MBA or before I did the marketing subject, and I happened to do two. I did Paul's subject as a core unit, and then the study tour, I did it as an elective. So I sort of did it twice, essentially, but it was very different.
It was very different.
Very different. So with the marketing stuff, for me, I just thought it was about Instagram and making pretty, pretty pictures and, yeah, very surface level stuff. But it's for me, it was very deep and about consumer behaviour psychology and understanding why people do things the way they do them. So I don't know if that answers your question. I'm sorry, but the advice for the whole MBA would be just to take the opportunities that come up and try and be open to new experiences and be brave.
I think the thing too is, and it sits at the foundation of everything we do in the MBA, which is to be curious.
Mm.
You know, don't be judgmental. Don't go in thinking there's this way to do it. It's being, as everybody is saying, open-minded. I think, Rachel, the conversations we had when you were doing the marketing unit as well was very much about being curious and open rather than going, this is just the way things are done, even if you're in a marketing role.
Absolutely. I think the way you have to keep asking questions and you have to keep challenging yourself. And in terms of marketing, if you're talking about something marketing specific, I think there are set preconceived ideas as to what marketing is. And it's a lot about psychology, and that, I think, a psychological lens across your whole MBA, I think helps you actually deal with and interact with other people, not just in terms of marketing, but in terms of the whole MBA. And you will come across people who have very different views to you. How do you manage them? You'll have people who aren't interested in your views. How do you manage that? You know, even in an online forum, we had many people who dominate discussion and all of those kinds of things. And so there's a psychological lens that goes across all of it. And like Paul said, I think it's about being open to listening to other people, and hopefully that everybody else is open to doing the same things.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, there's one here.
Oh, that's
Thanks,
one
Jess.
As a graduated student from MBA in any kind of university, have you ever come back to your university and asked them for do any kind of research or team working? And if you did that, how was the reaction? Immediately they accept you? Or...
we ran screaming.
They ran right in the other direction.
Well, Rachel was a subject for a couple of research projects earlier this year.
Yes, I was. I was a subject matter.
She was one of the subjects.
When I was interviewed by two of Paul's
research students,
Italian research students who were in Melbourne for a time, and they interviewed me in my then role as a CEO of a cultural organisation and about board interaction, because I've got a governance lens and but the board interaction. So I think they were, and I mean, I loved being involved in that kind of project. That was the university coming to me in some respects, as opposed to, I think you're talking about the other way around, me bringing a project to the university. I haven't done that.
You should.
I should. Yeah, I should. I might. And we have had some discussions, not necessarily about a project, but about, you know, units that I think might be valuable within the MBA, or things that I think would add to the MBA in its currently as it stands. But I think the universities are always open to constant engagement with alumni, and through that kind of research projects, they're open to those ideas. And again, it depends who you're going to approach. You've got to get to know the staff and the teams at the universities. I think it's really important to get to know your lecturing staff. Got a wealth of experience, a wealth of knowledge in specific areas, but also more generally. And a lot of the people teaching into the MBA have that life experience, or are currently working outside of their teaching of the MBA. So I've always found them very open to ideas generally. So I can't see why they wouldn't be. But I haven't myself brought one. But given Paul has left the door open, I may very well go home and think of something.
Thank you so much.
Patrick.
The organisation that I work for, we were through the study tour. We got approached to do a competition for the undergraduate students, and so we came up with a real business problem, and a group of students put together, presented to me on the board, and as well as some other academics. So I think what the executive dean was saying before about those connections with industry are really important. And I think through the Deakin MBA it's very, I've got my tongue stopped. It's very evident. So yeah, there's lots of connections, and that real experience is great.
And I think it is really important that we maintain connection with MBA alum, just because it can be a symbiotic relationship as well. And it doesn't always have to be something big. It can be something small. As you see, I've asked 3 MBA alumni and student to come and talk to us. There are lots of different ways that we want our alumni to be involved. And I think the first thing is reaching out, and a little bit like what we're learning today is don't hesitate to ask, because I'm very receptive to those interactions. I mean, I think the other thing to think about too is that universities are research and teaching institutions. So research is part of our DNA, as is teaching, and it's always a good thing to think about, you know, that knowledge that's there. I mean, your thoughts, Catherine, on both of those or all of those elements?
I think it's partnerships and opportunity. So you might be thinking this and that may not actually work, but something else might come out of that interaction that you've had or the opportunity. And then it's how you give back or the opportunity that you get. So it's something just personally in my mind, Danny, who does a lot of partnership works, he put me in contact with the property department this year because they needed a guest lecturer in urban planning, and it's like, yeah, sure, that sounds fun. So those sorts of connections. So it's yeah, there's opportunities and partnerships in different ways. So,
and I think it's about being open again. It's like sometimes the opportunity might not be there now, but had those connections. I think that's the thing I've learned as the MBA director, is that you can't necessarily do all of the things you want to do in the first 3 months. You kind of make those connections, and this is what these events are all about. We're going to finish up just in a moment, but we've got one more question just at the back there.
Thank you. Paul, my question's to yourself regarding the connections.
Sure.
I graduated about 5 years ago. I came in through the Institute of Public Accountants, so the alliance with Deakin, which is really great. And I learnt as well there was a lot of different people coming in different pathways. Given that strong connection and post that, I guess still being connected with the MBA, the alumni, it would be great, for example, because we have to keep our CPD hours. Because I find like once I finished, I'm stuck with the IPA. I would love to like attend these sessions and record that. I'm just wondering, 2025 and onwards, and I guess we keep that connection, you know, are the different bodies speaking to Deakin, or is it something that alumni can drive?
It's a bit of both. We form partnerships with places like the IPA and CPA and leadership, Geelong leadership groups and things like that. I think, again, it is one of those things where if you see an opportunity, you can come reach out to me and we can do that. If we see opportunities, we do that. And we do have a partnerships group that kind of help us to kind of cement those partnerships. So like I say, there's no harm in reaching out, and I'll always be very friendly to contact as well.
Yeah, because they recognise it when we studied.
Yes.
The time we spent was recognised as CPD.
Yeah, right. Okay.
When we finished, no one,
Okay. Well, let's talk. I'm not closed off to anything. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Before we finish up, because the snackies and the stuff's there, I'm going to actually throw over to Charlotte, because she didn't want to do this. But Charlotte is a representative from our alumni group, and she's going to give you some deets on how to kind of stay connected now that you are all in this room, because we're going to lock the doors. No.
Thanks, Paul. And firstly, thank you everyone for coming tonight. It's great to see so many faces in the room. I heard a few of you mentioning earlier that maybe the details that we have might be slightly out of date. And I apologise for that, but we really rely on you guys to update those with us. And you can do that via the website. You can come and talk to me outside with a drink. Otherwise, we'll also send around a communication after the event. We want to hear your feedback, and there'll be a link there where you can update your details directly. So thank you.
Thanks, Charlotte. Yeah, you get a clap.
You get a clap.
So I would like to thank our panelists for being so open. Sorry, Patrick, to put you under the therapy lens kind of thing. To Catherine, to Patrick, and to Rachel. Please put your hands together for their amazing insight. A big thank you to Tracy and to Jess for organising this. Thank you also to Jenny for coming along. And now this is the bit where we go out, have drinks and nibblies and talk to one another.